Hey guys, new build video for Path of Exile. So this video, we're going to make a build guide about the Doryani's prototype armor stacker. So I haven't really made a build guide for this version of armor stacker in quite a while, and some things have changed to the build, so I decided to make a new one where we go over a lot of the stuff about the build, because there are a lot of people, newer players jumping in, playing the build, and stuff like that. So okay, about the build. So I guess it is an armor stacking build. If you're very new to armor stacking, I do have a series called Armor Stacking for Dummies, where we go over a lot of the basic concepts about the build, ascendancies, how to scale damage, and all this kind of stuff that I recommend you go and watch. Because yeah, a lot of stuff we talk about will start to make a lot more sense. We're not really going to go so much into depth in this video, so if you have questions about that, I recommend you check that video out. Okay, so a couple of things you should know about this build before you decide to play it. So it is using this Doryani's prototype body armor. If you've never used it before, well, it is very weak to lightning degen. So weak that in fact you will probably get one shot by most lightning degen effects. Stuff like mana siphoners, you know, the mob with the blue ring around it. Also stuff like the shaper beam. This kind of stuff will pretty much just kill you right away. There are some things you can try to do to mitigate it, but in general it is something that's not really fun to encounter. After that, the build itself isn't really that expensive. There are some expensive items we're using, like this amulet, and we do have an unnatural instinct. But I'd say these are probably the more expensive pieces of the gear. Overall, pretty affordable. I spent only about 20 divs on mine, but that was early on in the league, so it might be more expensive now. Okay, so why would you want to play this build? Well, this build is probably one of the cheaper versions of Armor Stacker to get going, well, at least on Scion at least. It's pretty tanky, I guess. Not super tanky these days in terms of max hit. It does have quite a bit of, what do you call it, max hit. We're at 90 all res, stuff like this, and we do have Aegis, so the sustain on this build does feel very good. So you can kind of just like AFK in a pack of mobs while they're hitting you, and you probably won't die because you're going to be blocking, and as long as you don't get one shot, you're pretty much not going to die, because we have so much armor that every time we block with our Aegis Aurora, we're going to be healed to full ES. So the sustain on this build feels very good, and it also allows us to use stuff like Calm Spirit with the armor and evasion mastery. So for every 4 seconds we generate life equal to 1% of our armor and evasion, which then gets converted into rage for Calm Spirit. So you can see our rage sustain is very good. See, when the mastery kicks in, it's just going to keep jumping up. Looks like, you know, the speedometer on your car, basically. So rage sustain pretty good on armor stacker, at least with this Calm Spirit, and we get around the downsides of not having any regen with Aegis Aurora, max block. Then you can do like ES on Hit Watcher's Eyes, and then you can also get stuff like Divine Shield, which still works, and since we have a lot of armor, that provides a lot of sustain. Yeah, that's one kind of nice thing about the build. It does feel very, you know, tanky for the most part. It's also very good at farming Simulacrum, which is the reason why I am actually playing this, usually around from day 3 or so, and I jump into the Simulacrum on a very, very budget version without Mage Blood and all this kind of stuff, and farm Simulacrum until I can buy my Mage Blood. So very good at farming up the Simulacrums. And if you invest enough into it, you can do stuff like these T17s, although it is, you know, it's not like super easy. Like, you can rush the boss and kill most of the bosses if you don't have a lot of crazy stuff going on in your atlas. Like, for me, I tried this crazy atlas with like possessed bosses and was killing the possessed T17 bosses, but like we said, our max hit isn't super high. I mean, it's like 100k with Molten Shell up on Elemental and about 50k on Fizz and Lightning with Molten Shell up. But, you know, that's not enough these days, right? You're still going to get one shot stuff like DD, and there's a lot of, you know, crazy shit in those T17 maps that will still kill you. So it's not like, I would say, like really good at farming these maps, but you know, it is doable. You can do all Ubers. I've done all the Uber bosses on this build in previous leagues. So you can go check those out if you're interested. So pretty much can do all content, but it is sort of like the Doryani's prototype is a little bit kind of something that people don't really like. It's not really, you know, a build you want to play for a long time, but if you want to play Armor Stacker, it is the cheapest one to get going, pretty much. So there is that. Now I will be making a build video for my next build, which is going to be a sort of like the next version of what you would want to swap over to once you have this sort of level of gear. But we'll be making that sometime after this video. Okay, so that was kind of a long intro, but let's jump into a map. So we're going to do a Abomination map, and we're going to be using our Atlas like this. And we do have this Unrelenting Torment, so maybe we'll get a possessed boss. And we'll just see what happens. Okay, nothing really here, no Divine Orbs. And okay, so for the sake of the video, we are just going to run over to the bosses, I think, because there's a lot of things that can actually one-shot me. Like, there's that spider guy that does like, Detonate Dead, which is very annoying. Yeah, those things. Okay, well, we gotta go. Let's just see, where is the boss area? Oh no, it's a dead end. Alright, okay, let's get the rage up, and we are pretty fast, you know. One of the nice things about this build too is, okay, portal is basically with rage and the mage blood flasks, you know, you're at like 300% movement speed, which is pretty sweet. Alright, so let's just kill these guys off. Look for a good place to use the Vol Molten Shell. Oh, we do have the ghosts, so they are ghosted, which means we might die. Okay, we can't really stand in that attack. But Doedri is not dead. Oh, we died. So yeah, one-shots can be a problem. Where is the dude? Holy shit. Okay. Let's just kill them off. There we go. I think they were ghosted, so... And here is the main boss dude. Alright. But you see, I mean, pretty easy, right? Did have one death, but can't even really tell what's going on. Okay, so that's the map showcase. Let's get into the build. First of all, there is two sort of important breakpoints you need to be aware of when you're playing this. And we'll go over these first because probably a lot of people are getting stuck on this. First one is, well, how do we get 90% max res? And the way we do this is basically you need a level 23 purity. So you can get your 23 purity by having it level 21 purity inside an item that gives you something like this, like +2 to AoE gems or +2 to aura gems. And that'll make it level 23. And then after that, we're going to need 2 times 8 or 280% increased aura effect. And the way we're doing this, basically it's if you just follow the POB, you'll actually get the 280% aura effect. But two things to note is, in order to get it, you need to have your Militant Faith. This Militant Faith needs to have the increased effect of non-curse auras per 10 devotion, as well as the reduced mana cost of skills per 10 devotion, which we'll get into a little bit later after this. And with the, if you have an unnatural instinct in this slot here, this is going to give you 16% aura effect, because we are at 180 devotion for at least my version right now, 180. So I have 18% increased aura effect from this Militant Faith, but you only really need 16. And then you also are going to need a amulet with at least, I think it's like 13 or 14% aura effect, and that'll allow you to get to 2.8. So in the Google document, I have the Armor Stacker Compendium. There is a sheet where it kind of goes over this in detail, so if you get stuck, go check that out. But basically there are certain breakpoints for the aura effect, and the main things you do have to worry about is when you're buying your amulet, don't buy anything under a 14%. if these are too expensive, there are other amulets that give you aura effect, like the Jinxed Juju that has like up to 15. So if you're on a budget, you can get that, and you should be fine. But the Militant Faith, that is something you need. With this kind of setup with the Militant Faith, a Natural Instinct to get all the Devotion. But if you can't really find one of these, then you can always just come down here for a little bit of max res or cold res, right? And that 1 point should be enough. Or you can just get a sulfur, or no, what do you call it? Sapphire flask, right? Okay, so one of the breakpoints is the 90 aura effect. The other one is going to be reducing the mana cost of your Divine Blessing with the Grace Aura. So this is the reason why we need the Militant Faith with the reduced mana cost of skills. And if you're really on a budget, then the reduced mana cost of skills roll is more important than the aura effect, I'd say, because this is sort of build enabling, right? You do need a lot of reduced mana cost of skills. So in order to get it all the way down to a manageable amount, what I'm doing is first of all, we have it linked to Inspiration, which is giving 40% reduced mana cost. We then have this area over here, this Dreamer area, this is another 15%, and then the Mastery is 10%. And then we have these rings with, it's 5%, but I have the catalysts on it, so it goes up to 6. If you get the Unveil, it goes up to 8, right? And then we have another here, so it's like 5 over here. And then where else do we have some more? Right, and then the Militant Faith is giving us 16%, and we have the rest on the rings, right? So a total of 91% total reduced. And then what I'm doing now is on my Thread of Hope, I'm picking up this little node here for an extra 3%. So that's why mine is at 47 mana cost, because we're reducing it by like 95%. And that is kind of doable. So getting your Divine Blessing setup working is sort of, I guess there's another breakpoint. You need at least 90%, because then it'll be like costing 100 mana or so. That's still doable. You can see if I got a little bit more reservation, I'd be able to actually run 100 mana cost Divine Blessing. Anyways, there is a lot of examples in this Armour Sector Compendium with different setups you can use. You can catalyst your rings up to 8%, or you can get a synthesized ring with some more reduced mana cost, basically, and do a lot of things to reduce the mana cost. But yeah, if you do get stuck, check out this area here. It's got a lot of different ideas of how you can set up your manage your mana cost for the Divine Blessing. All right, so let's get into sort of the gear and this kind of stuff. So basically, Replica Dreamfeather, Doryani's Prototype, Aegis Aurora, Calm Spirit. These three are sort of the March of Legion boots are the unique items we're going to be using. And I do have a POB for a version without Mage Blood, and I'll go over that too at the end. But basically, so for the sword, just try to get one with increased attack speed, or high roll on the increased attack speed. Calm Spirit, you do need to have a +2 AoE or +2 aura, because we do need to have our Purity of Ice level 23, like you mentioned. Like if you can't get it on the gloves, I guess you could try to get it on the helmet, on the Unveil, but I highly recommend you get it on the gloves, because unveiling these can take forever. Like I just crafted a helmet, and it took 17 tries to get the Unveil. Yep. Just get it on the gloves. For the Doryani's Prototype, there isn't really much that you really need to worry about, because none of the stats really do anything except for the energy shields. Maybe just get a high ES roll. And for the March of the Legion boots, now one interesting thing is, okay, so first of all, make sure it is a +5 to the socketed aura gems. And since Inspiration level 20 is only 39% reduced mana cost, if you don't have a level 21 Inspiration or 2120, what you can do is you can get a +1 March of Legion. That's going to raise the level of your Inspiration, and at the same time also raise the level of your Empower. So basically it's the same as having a +2, but it also gives your Inspiration that extra level. Now going from 21 to 22 doesn't actually really make a difference, so it doesn't really matter, but something to consider. And for Aegis Aurora, there isn't really much here that you need. You can get some cool corruptions like Fizz Takenaz, or extra block chance or spell block chance. Would be kind of nice. And the Eternal Struggle. So if you don't have Eternal Struggle, One other amulet you can use is going to be the Jinxed Juju. So let's go find that. Okay, so basically this amulet gives you 10 to 15% R effect. So if you can't afford the Eternal Struggle, then you can get like, 14 or 15% Jinxed Juju for very cheap. And that'll help you hit the R effect breakpoints. For the helmet, these helmets are super easy to craft. You can also just use an Alpha's Howl at the beginning, starting out if you are on a super budget, and that'll work as well. Basically with this, you just want to get a fracture on either ES or Intelligence, and then you just use a Deafening Essence of Loathing. I got mine in like three essences, and then what you do is you just craft on ES and then just do the reservation and reduce mana cost of attacks, and you're done. Try to get something with at least like 300 ES and maybe either int and resistance as a suffix or something like that. But very, very simple. They should only cost like one to two divines to make, including the base. Okay, so for the rings, basically, since we're using Doryani's prototype, we do not want to get any kind of lightning resistance or all resistance. We are going to need a lot of fire resistance because we're reducing our lightning resistance by quite a bit, mainly with the melding in the flesh and the thread of hope. So we do need to get a lot of fire resistance. Cold resistance, we have purity of ice. So this is giving us quite a bit of the cold resistance we need. So we're gonna have to get a lot more fire. And one thing, one way to do it is your rings. It's gonna be where you're getting a lot of your resistance. So a ring like this with like fire, a ruby ring with T1 fire res, I guess T1 cold res or T2 cold res should be fine. And you do need an open prefix so you can craft on the reduced mana cost of skills. So remember that. Then some other kind of rings you can use is like these Grace Aura Effect synthesized rings. These will be giving you quite a lot more damage. And then you just craft it the same way. I like to craft it with the Intelligence Essences to get some resistances or all attributes. And then try to get ES on it and added lightning, flat added lightning, and then just craft on the reduced mana cost of skills, I guess. Or unveil the reduced mana cost of skills, whichever one. For the flasks, we're using a Basalt, Stibnite, Silver. So these kind of three are sort of the core flasks, and the last one you can change around, do whatever you want. So I'm using Quicksilver now, but you could use something like a gold flask for some rarity, or one of these jade flasks for some extra damage, or if you need more resistance, you can just get a ruby flask and it'll help make your gearing a lot easier, at least if you have a mage blood. Right, we'll go over the non-mage blood version after this. Okay, so for the suffixes, main thing we want is the increased armor. It's the most important one. And then attack speed is also nice, and increased evasion also nice. And then the last one, suffix, you can do whatever you want. You can do bleed removal, or you could do shock, avoid shock, I think, and then do storm shroud, tech for ailment immunity, and stuff like this. Leave that up to you. And for your unique flask, well, Dying Sun, pretty good, I guess, right, for extra proj, or like Taste of Hate, or Bottled Faith, whichever one you want. And that's sort of the gear. Alright, so let's go over the passive tree real quick. A lot of the stuff that's in the PoB is self-explanatory, so we'll kind of go over stuff that isn't really explained that well in the PoB. Alright, so this is the PoB. Now, you might notice it's a little bit different. I'm not actually pathing this way, but that's because this way is actually a little bit better. Well, it kind of depends on your character, right? At some point early on, when you don't have a lot of armor, this node will be a little bit better. But, now when you get the mage blood, this starts to lose value, and going this way is a little bit better. So kind of not really that important, but let's just see. So, what are we doing for tattoos? So I do have some tattoos. I'm just using the increased armor tattoos. You can see, just watch your strength requirement. Make sure you're able to hit it. When you do get a lot of dex, getting mark effect tattoos is going to be best for DPS. And one thing to note about the Divine Shield. So when you don't have a lot of damage, Divine Shield is a very valuable node because you're getting hit a lot. And it helps you, recover ES. But once you start getting more and more damage, you start killing things before they can hit you, and this Divine Shield actually just starts to lose value. So once you get enough damage, like I'd say something like this POB, then you pretty much don't even need Divine Shield anymore. Oh, okay, so let's go over some of the jewels. So for the Watcher's Eye, you can see the main mods you want to get. So if you're doing Simulacrum, you need to have this reduced crit damage somewhere. You can get it on the body armor as a corruption, or if you get it on the Watcher's Eye, that's pretty good. And then the ES on hit is going to make Simulacrum, like sustain in Simulacrum and stuff like this, feel a lot better. So recommend those two. Other ones that are good to have is Lightning Pen with Wrath, or like attack speed, precision. I'd say are the two best ones for damage. And then let's just see what else. So for our clusters, if you follow this POB setup, like I'm using 3 different types of large clusters. And the main reason is, well, you don't really have to do exactly the same thing I'm doing. So I'll just go over why I'm using these clusters. This one, the large cluster, is Storm Drinker is the node we're going for. And I like to get these 2 notables because it allows me to pick up extra attributes on 1 extra node, which is going to help me get like more fire res and stuff like this. So Storm Drinker gives you a little bit of ES Leech, which is going to be nice because we're using Calm Spirit. It also does give Lightning Pen. And then Scintillating Idea is nice because it does give you increased mana. Increased mana is going to help you fit in your Precision Aura and these kind of auras. So having max mana is nice. It is kind of like having a little bit of like reservation efficiency a little bit. So that's kind of nice. And then the last one I'm using is a shield cluster. So this is actually going to help you get your block cap a lot easier because you're getting like stuff like this node here with like 3% chance to block attack and spells. So that's like 6% with glancing blows. And then it also allows you to pick up stuff like Martial Prowess, or you could actually go for the one that gives you Mana Leech if you need that. But this gives you some accuracy, and it makes it easier to hit 100% accuracy because, yeah, the only accuracy we have is going to be from the Precision Gem. As for these small clusters, basically you just need these Introspection Reservation ones. You only need item level 68 plus for this, and you just roll it to get Introspection and maybe some nice stats, stuff like this. And if you do get like lightning res, remember you can swap it over with harvest to like fire or cold if you need it. And as for like how many 3 passives or 2 passives, it really depends on the build. In general, in the starter build, like if you're on the budget version of the build, it's I generally find that 3 passive and 3 2 passive is enough for me. Right now I'm actually running haste as one of my auras, so I do need the extra points. Okay, so Melting of Flesh, we do want to have a -4% on the elemental, all maximum elemental resistances, and then try to get a -80 to all elemental resistances roll, because remember we're Doryani's prototype, we want to reduce our lightning resistance, so something to keep in mind. And also for a small jewel, it's nice to get a CD over here, Corrupted Blood Immunity, and then any other kind of nice stat. Like you see, mine is complete trash, but I'm just using it. Okay, so we sort of went over the Militant Faith jewel, but one thing to note about this jewel is the main things you're actually looking for is not really the number, but it is going to be the 1% reduced mana cost of skills per 10 devotion and the 1% increased effective non-curse auras per 10 devotion. So those are the 2 things you're looking for, and after that, you just have to make sure that your Militant Faith isn't going to be replacing these nodes. I mean, it's okay if like Thrill Killer gets replaced, it's only 16% mana, so not the end of the world, but like stuff like, you know, Leadership, you're going to be losing 6% aura effect, or, you know, Harrier, you're going to lose some attack speed, or, you know, Foresight, you'll lose some energy shield, so try to get one that doesn't replace any of these nodes. Okay, so let's go over some of the gems and alternate skill setups. So there is quite a few skills you can use. Right now I'm using the Lightning Strike of Arcing, which is actually pretty good. I'm actually enjoying this gem quite a bit. The chain aspect of the skill does make clear feel very, very nice. Then you can also use stuff like Molten Strike, and you can use stuff like just the normal Vol Lightning Strike. if you prefer that, or you can just use Vol Smite, or just Smite. So the main difference in the setups is, well, all of the projectile setups are going to be the same, except for if you're running normal Lightning Strike, you do need a source of Pierce to make it feel good. So Pierce, and the way I do that is we'll have the Lightning Strike, and I'm just replacing the Awakened Elemental Focus with Pierce. And then for Molten Strike, basically the way you do this is you just replace, you need GMP basically, right? So you just put the GMP in. And if you're using Smite, well, then you just use a lot more of these damage supports, right? So you put your Smite in here. I'll just say this is Smite, then that opens up a gem socket in our boots. And then basically you just have the links like this, and you have like damage on full life or wed or something like that. But that's kind of like how you set it up. So very flexible on the links you can use. And let's go over some of the gems. So for the aura setup, basically we are going to be, in order to get haste running, on this version, I'm using a Enlighten just level 3 linked to 3 of my auras, my Determination, Wrath, and Purity of Ice. And that combined with the rest of the reservation we have on the tree, you can see in the POB is enough to actually run haste permanently. Okay, so for the Grace setup, it's gonna be Grace Inspiration, and then if you're running if you're not playing Smite, then you have Smite in the boots, and you can see our Smite is level 31, which is pretty insane. And then we have our Empower here, all linked together. Now, if you're actually just playing Smite, then what you do is you would make your boots a 3-link item. All right, you can do this on the crafting bench, even if it's corrupted. And then you put your Defiance banner in this one little slot, because the Defiance banner is going to get the benefits of the plus gems, but it won't count as a Divine Blessing, basically, yeah. Right, and one other thing to notice is the mark on hit sniper's mark. So if you're not playing a projectile build, one thing you can do is you can run the poacher's mark. Poacher's mark for the chance to gain a frenzy charge on kill, and that's gonna be kind of nice. Also, other than that, if you do have extra gem slots somehow, I don't know how you would do it, maybe if you had an unset ring, well, then you can run a automation support for the Berserk and Molten Shell if you want, right? It is kind of nice on Berserk at least. Then for our other auras, we have Haste, Precision, Discipline, Defiance banner. Make sure you're adjusting your precision to your actual hit rating. So go in POB and like raise or lower the precision gem and look and make sure that you're getting 100% hit chance, right? So sometimes you might not need level 20 precision, maybe level 18 is enough and you can squeeze out a little bit more mana. So something to keep in mind. And that is pretty much it for the gems and stuff like that. Let's take a look at the Smite POB real quick. So like we mentioned, we have the Poacher's Mark, and we're also having one extra gem slot because of not having to use Smite in the boots, so we can actually run a Ancestral Protector for some more damage. But other than that, I think just looking at the POB should be enough. If you have any questions, you can post it in my Discord or in the comments, and we'll try to get back to you. Alright, so let's go over the budget version and how you level and this kind of stuff. So the budget version is pretty much the same, but you can see in this version I'm going up this way. I mean, like I mentioned, this part isn't important. You can go up this way or come down this way, whichever one's up to you. The main difference is going to be the gear. So we're using Immortal Flesh because this gives some minus elemental resistances. You can also get it with a Grace Aura Effect Corruption. And then also it does give you some regen or life regen, which is going to be rage regen. So kind of nice to have. After that, the flasks are the same as the Mage Blood flasks, but we're going to be using the gain charge on hit. And you can go check out the different affixes that I'm recommending for the suffixes. So aside from that, that's pretty much it. Everything else is sort of the same. As for like how do you level, well, basically there's a lot of things you can do to sort of start this build early. So what is the earliest you could actually start playing? All right, so let's kind of cut this tree down. And let's just see what we can do. So let's take away some nodes that we might not need, right? So what I like to do is, well, early game, if you really want to play this early, you can see 94, and we pretty much have everything. There's some Might be some things we can cut out here. Yeah, probably not. So maybe 94 is like the ideal level, but there are some things we can do to actually play it even earlier if you really wanted to like just level up and jump in after like Act 10 or whatever, right? So how can we do this? So basically what you do is you're going to be disabling your Wrath Aura. And you see damage is still pretty nice. So disabling your Wrath Aura is going to allow you to do stuff like this. You can just drop this entire cluster setup like this. And you see level 69. Alright, you can even start playing even earlier, level 67. You see we're only at like 3 million DPS, but still playable, right? You can still jump into some maps and actually get into the maps and start leveling in like white maps, yellow maps, and even red maps with this kind of damage. So that's kind of like what I do is basically I just cut out the clusters. Slowly, as I'm leveling, I'll just slowly start to put the clusters in, and I go kind of like this, where I actually just skip the introspection node because I'm just trying to get this like reservation here. And once I have all the reservation, then I can just put my Wrath Aura back on. And then once I get the Wrath Aura, then I'll just go into the remaining like introspection nodes. So that's sort of the Doryani's prototype version, the low budget one, how I'm leveling. And as for how I'm leveling up my Scion, I just do a hollow palm. You can go check that out on like YouTube or something. There's a lot of guides on how to do it. So I think that's going to be it. Okay, so let's see. What are the Pantheons? So Pantheons, I'm using Brian King and Ralakesh. If you get bleed immunity somewhere else, then you can go for the Burning Ground one, which is kind of nice. Or if you do get freeze immunity somewhere else, then going over to our Kali is going to be a lot better. Yeah, guys, and that's pretty much it for the build guide, I'd say. Let me know what you think about it. You know, kind of mixed feelings about Doryani's prototype. It is very strong in like farming simulacrum, I'd say, because it's just like so efficient for farming it. I think if you get the gear early, it's not that expensive, and you can kind of just AFK farm simulacrums. But let me know what you think about it. You know, how many times you've died to mana siphoners and this kind of stuff. And be on the lookout for the next video, which is going to be a Transcendence build that is going to be very affordable. And if you have gear level similar to this, like then you probably will be able to swap over to it with very low cost. But that'll be it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.